Hello, everyone. Good morning. It's another bright Thursday over here. It must be raining somewhere. Uche, I think it's raining over where you are.
Yes, it's actually raining in Lagos.
Yes, yes. Okay. It's kind of bright cloudy where I am. I guess a little bit of a schizophrenic weather, but okay. I think bipolar is the correct word to use.
Well,
Forgive me, I'm old.
yeah, Lagos to Port Harcourt.
Yeah, yeah. Well, guys, welcome. Last week we couldn't finish our Unplugged edition, the second of our mini series, branding as a newbie. But I promise you, we've promised that we will go back and we'll do that. So even if we have to do a recorded session, we will record it and we will post it because we still have a lot to learn from Tendai Jamba, and we also have a lot to learn about how business is done in other countries because hey, we're living in a global world. But my guest today is my good friend. Full disclosure, he's really my good friend. He used to be my mentee, but well, now you know how old I am. You can guess if I'm mentee. But he's now
I'm,
he's now
I'm I'm still 70 years old though.
yes, yes, we know. We can see by your beard. But today we're going to wrap up the
Yeah.
branding as a newbie. But I think this is something that we're going to do again because there is a lot of need for it. And sometimes even people who've done branding before need to go back and remind themselves, hey, why was I doing this before? So our guest is Uche Anoruo. He's my good friend. He's my brother. He's my colleague. He's my one of my paddies for jungle. Yes. And having given you that informal um, introduction, let me formally introduce him. As he goes off briefly, Uche Anoro is a design professional, is a brand strategist, and a marketing communications specialist. Uche has over 20 years of experience under his belt, and he's a graduate of Fine and Applied Arts from the University of Benin. And currently, he runs Uche Anoruo Consulting, which is a branding and communications outfit. Uche is a certified entrepreneurial trainer, he's a master ninja instructor, and he's a consultant. And he brings with him a wealth of knowledge and creative approaches to brand communications, marketing, and business development. Uche also does life coaching and mentoring. He enjoys music, writing, traveling, photography, watching movies, and stage plays. Now, when he comes back, he'll tell us the rest of his story. Um, I don't know what I can even do to get him back in, but I'm sure he's going to go back in, come back in. Hi, Tenda. Hi, Afion. Welcome. Welcome. Yes, we are having connectivity problems. I'm sure he's coming back in. It's been quite a hustle. We've been working on connectivity issues for the past almost 1 hour. So those are some of the issues that newbies have to face. So welcome, Afion. Welcome, Tendai. Tendai, this is what happened to us last week. But hey, we'll overcome. So what Uche, I hope he's going to come back in to have this conversation with us. But what he plans to talk about to a large extent, we've looked at it to we have looked at it Okay, we are back. Yes, we really need to fix communications on another continent. Truly, 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 truly. I mean, you won't believe it. I have three devices around me, and we really need to. So I'm going to try and call our guest. So meanwhile, thank you for not going away. I really do appreciate it. You know, I really do appreciate it. So today, what Uche plans to discuss with us is the different elements of branding, which would be very, very important for newbies and old bees, as I call them. But in the meantime, maybe while we're waiting for him, could you just share with us what some of your concerns are? What some of the things in building your brand are? Some of the big issues. I know connectivity. I mean, having to put so much money on devices, it's a problem. Also, having to run a generator so we do not have power cuts and stuff like that is a problem. So if you're still with us, I hope you are. I think you are. Please share whatever burning issues you have so we can take it. Our guest is coming back in. Uche is coming back in, so I'm sure he'll pop back in a short time. Okay. But I have an issue that's been on my mind, and that is when we start off as newbies, why do we start alone? Do we start alone because we like that idea of being the boss of all we survey, or do we even actually give concern, well, thoughts to how about I start this with somebody else? And I had this conversation with a friend, and they said, okay, um, so who's going to be MD? I'm like, why is that even an issue? Why can't we discuss it? Okay, Tender, thank you. How to best marry your personal branding with your business brand. Okay, we've had this conversation, and I'm glad to have it again. And that is the intersection of the personal brand with your business brand. There has to be one. There has to be a confluence or a congruence or synergy between the two. If you say in your business brand, and that's one of the elements of branding, the values. If you say you value integrity in your business brand and it's right there on the wall, that's where we like to put our values, put it on something on the wall so that everybody who comes there sees that we've done a good job, of thinking about our corporate philosophy. But in your real life or your personal life, you find out that you're somebody who doesn't have integrity, then that is a problem. About 2 days ago, I was just casually following Instagram, and I saw a brand that I respect calling out another brand for lack of performance, poor performance, and this issue had gone on for quite a while, almost 2 months, 7 weeks, I believe, to be precise. And the other brand I follow was calling out this other brand for promising one thing and delivering on another thing. Now, I don't know the particulars of the brand values of this other brand, but if you say that you value integrity, why would you promise one thing and deliver on another thing? Okay, I think our guest is coming back in. So yes, then Tendai, how best to make sure that there is a confluence between the two? But I'll ask Uche to say, Uche, if you're going to rush, I don't know what's happening. The gods must be
Yeah,
mad.
I don't know. Then
Well, this is the man. This is my friend, and this is my colleague, and This is somebody we fought many wars together. So thank you,
Yeah.
thank you, and thank you for coming back to this.
Yeah. Thank you.
So
Thank you, Julia. Thank everyone. Yeah,
okay.
it's a
So
pleasure to be here.
I'll let
Yeah.
you run. I'll let you run. You said you talked to us about the 9 elements of branding, and at this stage, I don't know if we have time for 9 elements. So let's
Yeah.
run
Okay.
with it as yeah.
Okay.
Please.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. I think probably the first place to start is for us in our environment when you want to think about branding. The first thing you must start from is actually you start from yourself. All right. So branding really is starting from your brand to your idea, where you create and now create the product that becomes, a service, to your customers. Ultimately, it is the bundle of benefits that you build around this this product that is first from you, okay, that becomes ultimately the brand you sell. Now, internally, what we have done is that we've developed what we call, the personality of a brand, and that's, we did some research locally, and we found out that the best definition of a brand is actually from a Yoruba word called karakata.
Kara, what?
Okay, if you karakata, so
Can
the
you spell
Yoruba
that so I
buying and
can
selling.
post it? Buying and
All right,
selling.
so buying
Okay.
and selling, yeah, karakata. Now, when you look at that, okay, buying and selling. But when you also look at it in the English word, we actually looked at it in the dictionary, and we found out that it also means character. So,
Okay.
so, so when you sell a brand, you're actually selling yourself. It's like giving birth to a child. That child is in itself a different personality, but that child always finds itself back to you. So the first principle of building a brand is that you build a brand from yourself. So, Julia, when you talk about, the principle of what is the separation between the personal brand, and the corporate brand or the business brand, there's no difference. You know, Richard Branson has clearly, shown us that it's actually your personality you sell. So, for example, if I remember the market woman, the tomato seller from
Okay,
your
that my
NYC.
lady. Okay.
Yeah, you mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that for me was, a typical example of looking at a brand from the very basic. She was selling tomatoes. It was a commodity. Okay. But what was the thing that attracted her to you was it was her smile.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was her smile. So it was her personality first, even though your need was tomato. And there were too many sellers of tomato because in that market it was a commodity, it was a section of tomato sellers. But her smile stood her out. You couldn't communicate in a language that was, understandable to both of you, but it was character, that karakata that
Karakata.
that caused that exchange. And it is that exchange. If you look at everything we do in life, is actually about, character. It's about exchange. So when I buy from you, I don't buy because you're selling a product. I'm buying the character you have built around that product or that service. So if you're a newbie and you're starting business, that's a very important thing you need to, consider. Why? Because people buy from who they know, who they trust, and who they like. You
Okay.
know,
So people buy from who they know, who they
who
trust,
they and who they
and
like.
who they like. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Uche, I want to draw your attention to there's a video we posted on Instagram. Was it yesterday? Day before yesterday, 2 days ago. There was this little girl. Now, all the little girls on that stage were doing what the memo said, and they were dancing.
Yeah.
But there was this little girl who gave it her energy, and she
All
brought
passion.
everything. In short, why normally I don't post videos like that, but I was looking at it and I am of the belief that you can learn from anything. You can learn from
Yeah.
anything. I had seen that before, but then all of a sudden it struck me like when we talk about passion, this is passion. It's not just this girl knew that the other people were not doing what she was doing, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
it didn't stop her. And she knew she wasn't the only one on that stage, but it didn't stop her. She went on, and then she was the one who ended the thing and walked out with the swag. Who are you going to remember?
yeah,
You're going to remember that person who walked out with the swag.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. Why? Because she brought character. And you see, passion is an
Yes.
element of character. All right. She
Aha.
owned
Yeah.
the dance.
She
She owned the
owned
dance
it.
to she owned the dance to the extent that you forgot every other person who was selling
I think
the
they even
same
forgot
dance.
themselves. They had a little complex.
Yeah, yeah. So which is really what business is all about. Okay. So if you're going to sell, you must be confident that anybody who doesn't buy from you, doesn't know, what they want. One, okay. But that also doesn't mean that you should sell crap, because you can't sell a bad product. That's actually the first. Actually the first and basic law in branding. You must sell a product that is worth buying, because what that does is that it erodes from your character. You know, and there are two basic things that branding, brings. It's about reputation and visibility. Two things:
Okay.
reputation and visibility. All right. So if you want to measure the strength of a brand, okay, you times reputation by visibility and divide it. Whatever you get is the strength of your brand.
You've just given me heebie jeebies now. You talked about divide. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, well,
Okay, so
yeah. So
reputation
and visibility,
times visibility.
visibility.
Okay. Oh my goodness, I'm having the heebie-jeebies just writing this.
Yeah,
Divided by what?
yeah. Well, divided by what your customer's perception of you, your customer's response, to those two
I
things.
don't think my laptop has has divided. Hallelujah. Divided
Yeah,
by
yeah, but
customer's response. Okay.
yeah, because in that equation, it's always about your customer. At the end of the day,
Okay.
it's always about the customer. Okay.
So this is all turns out to be what? To be the brand or to be the
Yeah. This
visibility. This is the brand.
you know. Yeah, this is the brand. Okay. So
Okay.
what I've tried to define in a small consensus is the totality of what a brand is about. Okay. So it's about character, it's about reputation, it's about visibility, it's about your target audience.
Okay.
When you put all these three elements, all these equations together, you tend to find that you actually are building a brand. So from a conceptual point of view, this is where you start from in your mind's eye. Well, in your thinking process. Okay. Because if you solve this in your thinking process, then every other thing works, in tandem through the process.
Okay.
So
I'm going to come back to this, but I want to quickly talk about something that we started talking about. We talk a lot, but something that we
yeah,
started talking about before we went live on this broadcast, and you talked about the
yeah,
difference between um, selling a commodity and building a brand. Does this reputation and visibility does that speak to that comment you made?
yeah, yes, okay. And I would like to go back to the tomato seller.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, tomato is a commodity that is available locally in all of our Nigerian markets. Okay, and then it's also so generic that you would have in every market. It's generic, so they just have stands there in the market now. And I go back to the fact that you are a customer who was new to the environment.
Yes.
Okay, and what you were looking for was who would you buy clean tomatoes from? That was your need.
Yes.
Now, of all the if I take an aggregate market, there probably will be about 5 women, who will probably be on the same line. But they
There
didn't
must have
take
been
any
about
effort
20
to
women.
attract
And guess what? This woman didn't even have a stall. She
the
was
20
sitting
women.
outside.
But nobody was, conscious enough,
Yes.
to identify you and attract you. So when we talk about also this, psychology of selling, that attention, interest, desire, action is also that process. Without even knowing what she was doing, she was going through that psychology. So you appeared on the scene. Everybody was not conscious enough to identify that somebody had appeared in the market. So for a business, it is important that identifying who your customer is, his needs, his wants, okay, his personality, his idiosyncrasies even might be what will give you, an edge or advantage. Because, Judah, if you'll be Ajabo Copper.
I'm not.
When you appeared in that, you would have been an Ajabo Copper. So so she would have seen that this person was new to was green in this environment. So why don't I take why don't I take interest in this market? Because this is a new market and a new opportunity. This is a couples market that was opening to all the women, but no one was sensitive enough to see that there was an opportunity even in that environment. Now you approach, she smiles and you approach. Okay, attention gotten, interest created. Now the second is there's a communication gap in terms of how do I communicate to say this is what I want. So the whole element of sign language begins to go through. But what happens, ingenuity comes in, and you find a way around through sign language to create a solution to that problem. What then happens is that from that day forward, you started buying from her. Yes.
Yes. And I told
And then,
other people.
yeah,
Yes.
and you started telling them that is a perfect example of building a brand. What she then needed to do was now begin to do what? Create more value in terms of how she sold her, her tomatoes. So if I was her, I'll probably look for or if I was in that market at that time, if I do time travel, I'll probably look for something in the village that will create, a stand that makes her different from every other, stand in the market, because she already has earned your trust. So in building a brand as
Uche, do
well,
you know what she used to do? She started sending her daughter, who could speak a modicum of English, to go help me buy meat, fish, other
okay,
things. And she knew I didn't. It's not an Ejibota thing. I don't like going to the market. End. But I had to go to the market at that time in my life.
okay, yeah,
And she'll just tell me like sign language, sit beside her. What else do I want? And her daughter will just go help me.
yeah,
I think it was her daughter. Go help me get everything
oh.
else. So I always ended up paying a little bit more than required, but I was happy to do
Yeah.
that because
Do that. Do you see that you would have paid in the market? Yeah. So the very essence of building a brand is the fact that you can add so much value that through identifying the need of your customers, that the customer is willing to become your ambassador, is willing to pay more, and is happy doing it. And also it will get you more people onto your business.
Absolutely.
I don't know whether you get all the 4 things I said.
Um
Did you get the 4 things I said? That in adding value
okay.
to your customer by identifying a need, okay, and
Yes.
meeting that need, what you do is that you create brand ambassadorship, okay, for your brand, and you don't pay money to become a brand to your brand ambassadors. It's only probably currently that businesses build brand ambassadorship by paying. But if you have a
Yes.
certified customer will always become a brand ambassador any day, anytime, anywhere. Which is why sometimes the business will say to you that if we offend you, tell us. But if we please you, tell others. Okay? It's also because you want to build on that reputation.
I'm typing down all you said.
All right. So
Yes.
I'm taking it from that holistic point of view. So so the tomato seller for us, the tomato seller for us.
Okay. Does that capture it? Are you laughing at Jerry's comment? Yeah, she makes a good comment here that you must sell good quality
There's
services. That
a
if you have a great smile, but there's always sand in your car. I'll be waving at you
yeah,
from a
there's a
distance.
time gap.
Okay, I'm just going to stop and let you talk about Jerry's comment here. I think you're slightly
Hello,
frozen.
Julia.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here. Can you hear Jerry's comment? Or can you see it on the screen? Oh, okay. I think he's gone off, but I'm sure he'll come back in. Okay. So you're saying that there are no lines between your personal, well, I'd say that there should be no lines between your personal brand and who you are. But many of us know that there are many people, and oh, okay. Welcome back.
Yeah. The networks are dealing with us this morning.
I tell you, but we're going to finish this thing. We
Yeah,
are going to finish it.
we move.
We move.
Yeah,
We fear nobody.
yeah. All right, so let me speak a little bit about this character issue because it's actually so important, that we look at it in terms of building a brand. Okay. Now, what are these two components of the brand? It's character-based repetition. So when I talk about repetition and visibility, okay, I'm talking about character-based repetition, okay, in the sense that when people see you, everything you put out, is there consistency in what you put out? All right. Is there consistent? Is there quality in what you put out? Not quality, not from the fence of, there's there's facade quality, okay, and there's internal structure quality, integrity quality. Those are two elements of the same character, same issues of character. But if you don't build the two simultaneously, you will never be able to get the kind of character. For example, see, okay, I've seen the issue of the akara that has
Mm-hmm.
sand.
Okay.
Okay, that means that your quality, your internal processes for quality control is bad.
Yes.
Because yes, so that means internal quality control is bad. You can't be having sand in because people are going to eat this stuff. So you should actually have been dealt with those internal quality issues because they're important to what you put out outside. So for a newbie, working on your product to the finest level, it's a given. It's something that you cannot negotiate because ultimately, when you're not there, that is what will speak for you as a brand. That's character that you have built, a product so good that no matter what happens, people can always trust it. So when you're building your brand, consider two things: truth selling and trust selling. Truth selling and trust selling.
What's
Now,
the difference?
truth selling means that anywhere you take my product, okay, Philips will be Philips anywhere. Philips will not be Philips. Yes, but
Okay.
my brothers. So if there's a Philips, that means it wasn't from me. Okay, and anybody who knows my brand or anybody who eats my car will know that something happened in the process of doing this. In the process of creating this product. For example, all right, the beverage drink that some years tried to change their recipe,
Yeah, I remember that.
and then and there was an uproar because people realized said this is not the brand we know. So in that incident, it was truth selling and there was trust selling, because truth means that anytime you put out a product, your integrity is there. Trust is the fact that anytime I buy, I am buying based on the reputation and the character that your character is has been put on the line. So truth selling is I bring a product, I have not put anything, I've not put a lie concerning that product, before you. Trust selling that whenever you buy, you can trust that my name, will always be my name.
Um, you and I have worked on a lot of brands in the past, and
Yeah,
we've worked on financial institutions, particularly quite a
yeah,
few
yeah.
of them. And I'm not going to name names, but I think we know that sometimes it's been possible for them, for the owners of these brands to separate what happens in their personal lives, their personal brands, so to speak, from what happens in the professional brand, the corporate brand. Is this
Okay,
possible for big brands, for um, big brands to achieve, and less possible for SMEs?
okay. Now, big brands, what they do is that they create culture.
Hmm.
So it's culture that sustains character, because it is culture that enhances character. All right. So if we're a culture, we had a friend who said once that um, any one of his father's children, you know, any one of his brothers who doesn't know how to lie was not born by his father.
Oh my goodness, what a reputation to have.
So you realize that a culture had been built.
Okay.
Okay, and you see, it's so easy to forget that it's the same thing that happens in our businesses, because if our businesses take on our own life, so big businesses have the money to create the structures, and create training to to engender that culture. For the small business, you're wearing too many hats, and so what you need therefore to do is um, organic growth. And I'll tell you what happens, to me as in my business. Yeah, and it was something I learned from you in SO&U. Okay, so here I would be running around to get business, and the guys will be in the office, waiting for me to, bring business. Then they will start working, and I'm like, guys, this is not the best way to do it, because all of us have to, bake the same cake at the same time, so that once we put it out, all of us will earn. So one day I just surprised them. I said, you know what? I'm going to promote everybody. Okay, so all be MDs. We'll all be MD. And then, so what we do now is that we work as a collective. All right. I buy service from you. So rather than knocking my head every month, giving you a salary. You own your business. You're an entrepreneur. You own your business. So therefore, you own your costs, you own your risks. And so when we aggregate our costs, I as the superior entrepreneur, I take my risk costs. But I pay
Yeah.
everybody. Everybody's settled. I don't bother about monthly costs anymore. So sometimes culture is not formed until people take responsibility. And it's that inability to take responsibility that make SMEs suffer. That's one of the things I've recognized in building brands, in this environment. Taking
You're very right.
responsibility for
Yeah, you're very right. I was speaking to the MD of a blue chip about a few months ago, a couple of months ago, and we were talking about this hybrid working, and he said, Julia, I don't think people have the how do I call it? Let me call it the character. I don't think people have the character to be truthful enough to log their hours, do what they say they'll do when they're going to do it. I mean, you can give them everything and they'll probably use your own data, your equipment, your devices, and do their own business, and give me an excuse for not doing business, doing my business. So, what you said about culture is not formed until people take responsibility is very important. People really need to take
yeah,
responsibility, not just for the A, yeah part, but hey, how are we going to make it work? It's very
yeah.
important. Yes,
I
it's very important.
people don't realize it until they have to now cater for their own costs. Because
Yes.
it's so very easy to rest on somebody's cost. And that is what every SME realizes when you start business. Because some of the costs you took for granted, you know, becomes, so very important because they add up to your bottom line.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes, like I was telling you that a lot of people who started business in this environment start business not because they plan to start business. They start business because of you know systemic breakdowns in their own personal structures. Yeah, when I talked about probably you were working, something has happened, you have to leave, okay, and so you now realize that okay, now I have to build my own business. It takes a mental shift, mind shift, to sit in the place of an entrepreneur. Yes. Entrepreneurship is a mindset, that if you don't take on, you will never succeed.
So what's that
You will never
mindset
succeed.
about? What does that mindset look like?
Risk, risk taking. That's the most simple way to put it. Why do you want to take the risk? All right. Is the risk worth it? Okay. Now, because if that risk is worth it, you will do everything to ensure that you succeed. That's what makes adventure movies interesting. That's what makes James Bond who he is. He will take a risk, to ensure that that mission is achieved, come what may. Um, there's no excuse. And like Judah, you will say, F is for effort.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
F
so
is
we
totally
work
for
hard. No,
efforts.
but
Yes.
yeah, so nobody rewards effort. It's actually results at the end of the day. All right. So that for me is fundamental in terms of building the brand and creating the character that effort in such a way that we receive the results we want. So as a newbie, all right, um, probably let me briefly take my own journey, into entrepreneurship,
Okay.
leaving S1U. All right.
Okay.
Um, yeah. So yes, our own entrepreneurship as business was doing rackets.
The hustle.
Yeah, yeah. So, but you realize that at the the time that the time that you were somebody was covering for you, you now have to ensure that the costs, has to measure up at the end of the month, because you were being paid at the end of the month. So whatever you did was actually an add-on. But now you're sitting on your own. Nobody is calling you as a client. You have to go and look for the client. You have to go and develop your business ideas. You have to go and speak English. And you know that,
Plenty.
yes, you have to speak English for somebody to be able to trust you enough to give you money. It's then that you actually go through a mind shift to say to them, this is not anything that is this is not moi moi. So I had a friend then who had started the entrepreneurship program with ILO. Okay, I asked me, can I just join them and look at what it looks like? And when I opened up what was involved, I realized that I didn't know Jack. So
Mhm.
it took the humility of sitting down and saying to myself, Uche, learn from the very basics again, and look at your business, idea again. Look at what the model is. Look at what you need to do to ensure that this brand becomes something that you can be proud of, and people can always, you know, um, refer you to. Now, a lot of my marketing is based on referrals. Now, if you know referrals is one of the most difficult elements of growing a business for two reasons.
Yeah.
The person who is referring you is also putting his own reputation at stake. So people are very careful about referring somebody who will, put their reputation at stake. That which means that anytime somebody gives you a job, you must ensure that no matter what happens, there's nothing that goes wrong. Nobody needs to know what you went through to do it. You must deliver. When that mindset hits you, you'll realize that what Warren Buffett says, that it takes 35 years to build a business and 5 minutes to destroy it.
To destroy it, I tell you.
It takes 5 minutes to destroy it. You remember our logistic issue a few weeks back?
Yes, yes.
So now, when you realize that mindset, you know, helps you take entrepreneurship easy. And then for your workers who think that they've come for a jolly ride, okay, and you keep on screaming that this is not what you should do, this is what you should do, probably nobody appreciates it until they have to take responsibility for a simple task. So branding for me is not the dressing in itself. It's the heart of the business itself. It's the character that you build into a business. It's the reputation that you put outside. The visibility part of it is only, you know, when you have done the groundwork at home. Okay. So from a design point of view, that's when I begin to think about, okay, how do I take, your thinking and build, okay, all those beautiful pictures that represent me. But each time that beautiful picture, is out there and the brand does not support it, or your promise does not support it, you have created a gap that somebody else who is very, you know, um, conscious can step into that market and take opportunity from before your very eyes.
Okay. I want to ask a question on behalf of someone here. She has not asked the question, and I did request that she ask all her questions here today, but I'm going to ask a question now. Um, this person has a hustle. You know, you and I define the hustle as a dance. You know, it has specific steps and everything.
Yeah,
It's a dance, and it's something that you do on the side. That's why it's called a hustle. You know, we
yeah.
used to call it rackets at that time, but it's the same thing. You know, and but she's trying to grow it into a proper business, and she kind of started, I believe, I I need a logo, I need a name, which you need, but you can always change that, you know. And recently she did attend some training, which made her come back and say, "Oh my goodness, everything I'd done was upside down." And I said, "No, I don't think you've done everything upside down. All you need to do, I mean, everybody would make mistakes. We must accept that. Even the blue
Yeah.
chips make mistakes. It's,
Yeah.
you know, it's to have the humility to say, hey, how can I start again? And then don't take it in little bite-sized
Bits.
chunks. Yes, take it in little bits. But I like the what you said about do the work inside. You know, what am I going to stand for? There are people who sell, let me say, everybody sells this. You can have 1 million people who sell this cup, right?
Yeah.
Why would people buy from you and not from the other 900 and something people?
Yes.
100,000. Yeah. Why would they buy from you? Why you? Is this
Um,
this
it, it,
same
it-
reputation? But you're new in the marketplace. How do you get a reputation?
all right. So if I'm new in the market, um, what do I look for? Um, Now we must also realize that if I'm new in the market, I must realize the fact that there are people who are in that market before me. Okay, so it's actually looking at that market and seeing who are easy to pick out. Friends who know me. Okay, I don't know what business the person does. Can you just give me a so that I can probably build a I can build a conceptual trade. What does the person do? What was the hustle? The person's hustle.
Okay. I'm coding it now. I'm trying to code it.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, okay,
Let's say gift items. Let's just say sundry gift items. Yeah.
okay. So Sunday gift items. That's a wonderful place. So what kind of gifts? Identify. You know, the kind of gifts you want to give out. When do gifts? You know, go out. So birthdays, occasions, and stuff. Now the question is, when people are giving gifts, what kind of gifts show thought?
Okay.
How
So you
yeah? How
start
do you deliver?
segmenting the market.
Yes. Yeah. So
Okay.
look at your markets in such a way that do a deep dive into your market, because everybody will do birthday, everybody will do something. Take the general occasions, okay, and then look for what to do in those general occasions that will make you stand out. Birthdays is probably the most basic one. So they will buy somebody a gift, or they will how do I create disruption with birthdays? That will be
Okay.
the thing. Yeah, how do I create the disruption with birthdays? Why must birthdays be for example, I created a calendar that starts on your birthday.
Okay. Okay.
So you have a personalized calendar that is personalized to you. So January of that year starts on your birthday. You give that person that gift, the person will treasure that calendar
I
for the
want,
rest of
please.
yeah. So for me, it's taking a calendar which is like a basic, you know, even though it's functional, but I translate it to something that you can personalize and own, and say, can you see my calendar? And every year there's a market for you in that person's life. When they get to their big landmark years, you always have something to do. Take t-shirts. I'm using gift items right now.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm using the concept of what is the structure you can create with t-shirts, as a gift item, on birthdays. So look for disruption issues or um, ways to do add-ons to your to whatever, probably if there's okay, so let me say there's a major gift brand in the market.
Yeah.
Okay. What can I do to make people want me more? I will probably go from a price perspective, but I'll make my product so good that somebody will say, why don't I just do? I will take the big one, but I will take the small one as an add-on. So look for disruption, look for add-ons, look for alternative options, guerrilla marketing. How do
Can
I
you break
relay?
that down? What does guerrilla marketing mean, really?
Okay, so guerrilla marketing knows that you don't have the capability of a big brand. You don't have guns. You only have a stick. So the question is, how do I use my stick to the same effect that the person who has a gun to achieve the same purpose that somebody has a gun can? All right, that's what guerrilla is. What unfortunately these bandits are doing. Okay, government is chasing them. They go to soft targets. Those are basically when nobody can immediately respond. A small business is nimble.
Should be nimble.
Yeah, well, should be, because you don't have too many. Yeah, that should be an advantage for you as a small business. The ability to be agile should be a competitive advantage for a small business against a big business. Big business have size, have capacity, have money. Customized giftings is the forte of entrepreneurs or small businesses. That for me will be an approach to go, through for that kind of person. Differentiate yourself. So differentiation is another matter. How do I differentiate my own from what every other person is doing? Probably let me look at name. All right. Can your name become something that is different? Waka now. I'll probably have to use those kind of, but before it wasn't something that was common in this environment.
Yes.
That we took our local names. It was the South Africans that actually started it and ran with it. We only jumped onto that background. You could actually use your name as a differentiator. Okay, your service is good. So what
we
you
have
now
something
begin to
on
do,
Big Brother now called Abeg, right?
yeah, I beg
We
money.
have a brand
Yeah.
called Abeg. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we're doing, that we're using our cultural elements to infuse into our brand, to create differentiation for our businesses. Now, what I just told you about karakata, if I didn't say that to you, you would never really have thought about that as as a branding strategy. As a business brand strategy. But it was obvious, and it was something that we're doing even without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
But we sat down and looked at it and said, this is really what it is about branding. It's about character selling. Interesting. Look at it. Everything that the Bible is talking about is about character. If you took, if you took Christianity or or religion as a brand, the one thing that they want to sell is what? Character. Because the only possibility that somebody believes in you is character. The one reason why people will not believe in you is character. Because
True, because even the word Christian is a brand. If
everything
you say you're
everything is,
Christian, you have to look like. So you have to
yes,
look like what you say you are.
yeah. So
Okay.
character is so fundamental as a marketing tool that we cannot, do away with it in terms of whatever we're doing, at a marketing point of view. I know our time is running.
Our time is running, but I'm wondering whether we could tag on like 5 minutes extra if anybody
Yeah,
has
fine. Yeah.
questions, because we lost about 5 minutes at the beginning. So if anybody has
Okay.
questions, I still have some questions. There's something you said about okay, yeah, yeah, you attended to that one. You attended to that one. That is the selling commodity and building a brand. There's a reason why it's called building. I mean, is instead of just being a brand, you
Yeah.
build. It's a process. You become. So
Yes.
I'd like you to speak to that. Because many times with social media now, many people have their own PR. We are our own PR person. You know, but it's very important to really think through, and this is something we don't do. We've been doing a personal SWOT analysis in my office, and I tell you, it's something that you really need to put your brain on and say, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? You know, where do I find, how do I express opportunities? How do I react to threats? How do I react to opportunities? How do I find them? And it's a lot of thinking. So my question really is, how do you move from somebody who is doing the hustle to somebody who is building that brand? Because you've said a lot of things. You've talked about you've talked about the personality, that's the reputation. You've talked a lot about getting people who will the word of mouth. But this is me. I just like we said, right size. I've just been right size, and I've been given a chunk of money, maybe with my pension. What do they call it? Yeah, with
Gratuity.
my pension, yeah, my gratuity and everything. So I've been given this chunk of money, and everybody is what is everybody doing now? Is doing food trays, cooking, and I
Mm.
say, okay, I can cook or I can bake. How do I start? How do I move from being that person who just bakes or cooks to being a desired commodity, a brand?
Okay. So the first thing is that when you get that money, keep yourself away from that money.
You mean I can't just go to Venice and enjoy myself for a while?
The money will not come back with you. It will not come back with you. So there's also a reason why they call it gratuity. Okay. So I think the best place is to sit down first. Okay. Um, take your essentials. Okay, and sit down at the place of thinking. Okay, we call it strategy. Okay, but
Yes,
it's basically thinking. And one of the most difficult jobs in the world, in fact, the most difficult job in the world is thinking,
yes.
which is
Gives
why
me
a
a
lot of
headache.
people, yeah, this is why a lot of people, you know, um, dedicate it to other people. But you see, when you sit down and go through a process, that's why I said entrepreneurship is a mind, you know, is a
Shift,
is a,
yeah.
is a,
A
is a mind shift.
mindset.
Yeah, yeah. So when you sit down and say to myself that I want to build a brand, you need to also give yourself time.
Okay.
Yes. What a lot of people don't do, and that is actually why fraudsters make mistakes, because the energy it takes you to do all those kind of runs and calls. Do you know what it means to con somebody? It takes mind blowing energy, intelligence,
Yeah.
to be able to con somebody. And the point of sitting down to think a strategy straight, why don't you use it for something effective? So building a brand is actually the same process. Okay. Where you say to yourself, I am starting this way. So what must I what is the website? First, my name. Okay. So
Okay.
I start from my name because it is my name that I will sell with first. ah, Julia sells cookies. So if it's cookies I'm selling, it will be Julia's cookies. I
Maybe.
must ensure that Julia's. Yeah, no. Because if nobody knows you, at least they will know your name.
Okay, yeah, true.
Yes. Yeah. So that's where reputation first starts. So it's that building that personal reputation and then your brand. So it's the merge of those two, your personal and your products, that helps you now begins to build. So if my cookie is good in your house, the next day your child is having a birthday, you will take it to school. Their families will begin to enjoy the cookies. The school has an event. You must not be in a hurry, because when you begin to push in a hurry, people begin to say, "What did you put inside of it?" Yeah. So Brands take time, to mature. Our challenge sometimes in this environment is that there's no time to die. Solomon Grandi was one man that came and lived in 1 week.
1 week, he gone.
So
Yes.
yeah, so a lot of people want to have a brand that has a full circle in 1 week. It's not possible. Julia, you and I have been at this thing for how long?
Longer than I care to share in public. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
but the
long.
truth
Yeah,
about
over 3 decades and counting
yeah, so what
for
what
me.
what you see is that what you see is that it takes time, because once trust is achieved, you have hit the place to start flying. But it takes time to build trust. So one of the things you must always try to build is build trust for your brand. Once you're able to succeed in building trust, whoever you sell to will become your brand ambassador. That's the most cost effective way for market development, brand ambassadorship.
Okay. Okay. And I'm going to take that brand ambassadorship and break it down to the most simple, the jale, at the very basic level. It means that the people who you sell to, people who buy from you, are the people who will tell your stories, who
Yeah,
will be in the room when you are not there. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to spend your money as a newbie for a celebrity, you know, to
yeah,
promote. And if you have a friend who's a celebrity, hey, big up to you.
yeah,
That's a definitely a plus. But otherwise, yeah, when people are talking about you, I'll give you a very quick example. There's a friend of mine who has been on this show before, but he will come again later, and he makes clothes. He has an excellent clothing line here in
yeah,
Port Harcourt, and I was looking at my nephew's IG page today. I tend to do those kind of things. I'm constantly doing my market survey. Just checking what's
yeah.
happening. And when is a
Business
family member?
business
Sorry,
intelligence. Business
business
intelligence.
intelligence, exactly. And then he said, "Oh, clothes by," and he mentioned this guy's name. And
Yeah,
like, wow, how many generations? My husband, he makes clothes for men only for
yeah.
men. Now he's done
Segmentation.
clothes for my husband's generation. He's and right now all the way down to my nephew's generation. Can you see how this
So
building trust, building reputation through time?
yeah,
You
I
know,
see. I want to address this issue, which is also a very critical issue. They say that people who do tailors, handiwork, businessmen.
Are you talking about the spirit of Taylor?
No, 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 no. People who do this kind of jobs, tailors.
Yes.
Yeah, they don't realize that their business is so built on trust.
Absolutely.
Have you ever gotten to get to a wedding and on the morning of going to pick up your dress for the wedding, the dress is not ready,
Uh,
and the
That one
person
is
has said,
a fight now.
"No, it's not. There's no fight because there's no events for you if you didn't have a backup plan."
True.
And they'll sometimes wonder why you leave them, and go to somebody else. It's simply the basis of building trust. you know. So they don't realize that they themselves are the chief marketing officers of their businesses, and that they are also the chief destroying officers of their businesses by virtue of what their character.
Okay.
Nigeria, we always say, is village people. There's no village people. Village people is who you allow, or what you allow in your business
So it comes
to a
back to
large
you.
extent. Yes. So, in fact, I like one of the things that your people said. It says the Amazon of Africa. It was one of your guests that said that.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah. So for me, that was actually one of the most powerful, positioning statements. I've heard somebody, talk about, and the person said, Amazon. So your bidding, she was a woman, so he actually fit her brand. Strong woman, strong products, strong territory. It resonates, and there's also a play on words.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, guys,
So
we're gonna stop here. The good thing about it is that Uche has promised me that he has a course for the 9 elements of branding, and I believe this is a
yeah,
course that will be useful not only for newbies but for OBs, as I call them. We always can do with time to reflect, time to refresh, and relearn. So. Uche, please let us know as soon as it is ready, so we will partner with you. I believe in collaborations. Partner with you
yeah,
and get the word out there. I guess it's going to be an online course
yes,
so that
yeah,
more people can come in. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, definitely,
Great.
yeah, yeah,
Hopefully by then we'll get all our connectivity issues sorted out. So
yeah,
we
well,
don't.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
it's
I'm glad we
it's
had
good.
this conversation today. I'm really glad
Yeah,
we were able to do it.
a
And
long time coming.
long time coming. I
Yeah,
hope you will come again. And
I'm always available, Julia.
no, you're not. Your heart
You know,
is available, but you physically, you're not available.
yeah, right,
And
yeah, yeah.
I'd
I
also
know.
like to thank everybody who joined us on the broadcast, and for those who will join us again. Well, I'm sure you'll catch the energy of that Uche Anoruo has brought. Um, he runs a consultancy company. Okay, we're going to ask you what Master Ninja is, but you'll tell us another time. His consulting company is Uche Anoruo Consulting, and
Yeah,
you can reach him there on IG and Facebook. I believe on Facebook, IG and
yeah,
Facebook.
yeah,
Okay,
Facebook, yeah,
all right.
yeah,
Okay, so thank you very much for today. It's been a wonderful wrap up for branding as newbies, and this is something I believe we are going to do again and again
yeah,
because we all need
yeah,
to relearn this.
yeah. All right. Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, it's great. Thank you everyone for listening in. I hope you picked up something, and we can use it to grow our brand. See you at the top.
Yeah, see you there. Take
Yeah,
care, everybody.
yeah. Bye.
Bye, and have a good holiday tomorrow. Nigeria turns 61 tomorrow.
Mm,
Have a good
mhm.
holiday. Yeah. Bye.